You might be smarter than most people around you and not even realize it because real intelligence doesn't look obvious. Most people think being smart means having answers, but in reality, it's the opposite. Smart people question everything. You don't just accept things, you ask why. Why is this true? Why does this work? Why do people believe this? While others move on, you stay and think. That's not overthinking, that's awareness. You enjoy being alone not because you're antisocial, but because silence gives you clarity. While others need noise, you need space. Space to think, space to understand, space to reset. You notice things others miss, small change, subtle patterns, tiny details. While others see the surface, you see deeper, and that's rare. You feel like you're not smart enough, you compare yourself, you question yourself, you think others know more, but here's the truth. The more you understand, the more you realize how much you do know, and that awareness is intelligence. So if you related to these, you're probably smarter than you thinking, not loud smart, not obvious smart, but quietly aware. You don't follow the crowd not because you're trying to be differently, but because most things don't make sense to you. You question trends, you question opinions, you question what everyone blindly accepts, and that can make you feel isolated, but it also means you think for yourself. Talked about signs you're smarter than you think, but intelligence isn't always visible sometimes. It just feels like you don't belong. You read people easily, not just what they say, but what they mean. You notice tone, body language, small inconsistencies, and sometimes it makes conversations feel fake because you see what others miss. You get bored very easily, not because you're lazy, but because your mind needs stimulation. Repetition drains you, shallow conversations exhaust you, you crave depth, something meaningful, something real. Your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, you replay moments and wonder what you could have done differently. It's exhausting, but it also means you're aware. You struggle to fit in, you feel out of places, even in familiar spaces, like you're there but not really part of it, and over time you stop trying. But here's the truth, you're not meant to fit in everywhere, because thinking differently means seeing differently, and that's not a weakness, that's your advantage. If you felt different your whole life, this might be why, because thinking differently is often mistaken for being wrong. We talked about signs you're smarter than you think. But intelligence isn't always visible, sometimes it just feels like you don't belong. You don't follow the crowd not because you're trying to be different, but because most things don't make sense to you. You question trends, you question opinions, you question what everyone blindly accepts, and that can make you feel isolated, but it also means you think for yourself. You don't just think, you notice your thoughts. When something happens, you don't immediately react, you pause and ask yourself, why did I feel that? Why did I think that? Most people never do this, they just react, but you observe, and that changes everything. You can admit when you're wrong, and that's rare. Most people defend their ego even when they know they're wrong, but you do. You reflect, you adjust, you grow, because for you being right is less important than understanding. You understand your emotions, not perfectly, but enough to recognize them. You know when you're angry, when you're anxious, when you're avoiding something, and instead of ignoring it, you try to understand that. Self-awareness.
You question your own beliefs, you don't assume you're always right, you ask, what if I'm wrong? What if there's another perspective? And that's powerfully because it keeps your mind open. You spend time alone thinking, not scrolling, not distracting yourself, but reflecting about your life, your decisions, your direction. Android, in those quiet moments you understand yourself more. Self-awareness isn't loud, it's quiet, it's invisible, but it changes how you see everything, your life, your decisions, your future. Feeling lost is one of the most uncomfortable feelings, like you are moving but going nowhere. But what if feeling lost is actually a sign you're on the right path? In the last Impact talked about intelligence, thinking different, self-awareness. You feel lost because your old life no longer fits you. The things you used to enjoy don't excite you anymore. The people around you don't feel the same, and that creates confusion, but it's not failure. You feel lost because your old life no longer fits you. The things you used to enjoy don't excite you anymore. The people around you don't feel the same, and that creates confusion, but it's not failure, it's growth. You feel behind because you're constantly comparing yourself to people who are ahead, but what you don't see is their confusion, their struggles, their doubts. You're comparing your reality to someone else's highlights. You don't know what you want, and that's frustrating because everything feels possible but nothing feels certain. So you stay stuck, not because you can't move, but because you don't know where to go. You're not the same person anymore, and that's uncomfortable because your identity is shifting. What you believe, what you want, who you are, it's all changing, and change feels like being lost. You're not the same person anymore, and that's uncomfortable because your identity is shifting. What you believe, what you want, who you are, it's all changing, and change feels like being lost. And maybe you're not lost at all, you're just in between who you are and who you're becoming.